Hi and welcome back to another session of Open Source Thursdays, as Jaflet has so kindly introduced. This session, we're going to be talking about maintaining an open source project. And if you're new here, if perchance you haven't been keeping up with the last four sessions that we've been doing, and this is your first time, my name is Husseinat Etti-Balogun, but everybody just calls me Kenny, and I'm a software developer, recent graduate, and I'm really passionate about space technology and open source. So the agenda for today's session is going to go like this. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about who a maintainer is. Then we're going to talk about what a maintainer does. Then we're going to talk about how a maintainer's work affects everybody in the ecosystem, and then how to become a maintainer. So the first thing, who is a maintainer? Well, open source maintainers are the unsung heroes of the open source world. They're maintaining and releasing everything from libraries to apps to operating systems. They're basically the great grandfathers of the open source ecosystem, basically, because you may not know, but most of the open source technologies that you use are probably being maintained by some guy in Nebraska or some guy in Hawaii or one random person in in Kenya or something. And we don't take enough time to appreciate our maintainers, I think. Basically, that is what a maintainer does. They make sure that everything is up to date and they answer people's questions on time. So what are the main attributes of a maintainer? So I categorize them into social, personality, management, and technical. So the social aspects are they're really good at communication, they're very empathetic, and they're very, very key on community building. The next one is personality, and to be a maintainer, basically you have to be very patient. You have to be open-minded and you have to be enthusiastic. Patience is very, very key because you might have like hundreds, there's like two different sides of it. Number one, you might have hundreds of issues every day, people asking you, hey, this isn't working for me, and you might get tired even trying to answer one or two questions a day. Then there's the other side of people don't even know what your product is. Nobody uses your package, and you're trying to even get other people to come on and help you with this, but you don't know how to onboard these people. So there's two distinct sides of the spectrum of being a maintainer. You can be a maintainer of a very, very popular project or a very not so popular project. The next thing is management. So as a manager, an open source maintainer is basically also a manager, in quotes. So you have to have vision, discipline, and availability. Now, most open source maintainers, they do this in their free time. So they have an actual job where they get money from, and then they take the time out of their day after coming back from their stressful job to then answer people, to then work on these projects that everybody is using, So availability is something that is kind of like, since most open source maintainers don't get paid, availability is something that is kind of like on the edge right now, because most people don't have the time apart from to take out of the day, apart from their 9 to 5 that they're doing. So availability is key. I think I would suggest, like, most people, they'll have like maybe working hours for the project. Like, okay, if you're only going to be available, let's say 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day or every other day, at least try to be consistent with that, right? And obviously you have to have the overall vision of where you see the project going, so that other people that come onto the project will be able to figure out how they can use their skills to help build the objective of the project along. Then the last one is technical. So you have to have, I don't want to say you have to be excellent, but technical excellence or technical expertise to a certain point. Quality assurance, domain experience, definitely. Because if you're maintaining a project but you don't even know the basic rudiments of it, it's going to be very hard for you to explain to people that want to come on and help you how they can help you, So maintainers are the conductors of an open source project orchestra. Although open source software maintainers devote a significant portion of their work to coding tasks, great maintainers must excel in many other activities beyond coding. So maintainers should care about fostering a community, helping new members find their place, while also saying no to patches that, although are well coded and well tested, do not contribute to the goal of the project. And the goal of the project is the main thing a maintainer should be thinking about. Like, is this person coming on going to help get to the goal of this project? Is this issue, is this patch, is anything that we're doing helping us get to the goal of the project? That's the focus of the maintainers. So what does a maintainer do? Basically, they steer the ship in the right direction. Basically, they did the stats of basically what an open source maintainer does. I think they surveyed about like 100 or 200 open source maintainers. And they said that around 25% of their work is building new features and writing code. 20% is reviewing contributions, issues, and responding to users. Then 14% is bug reports, fixes, and resolving conflicts. About 11% is proactively managing technical debt and improving existing code. And about 9% is documentation, which is very, very important. And 5% goes towards guiding the project's strategic direction, which is what I was talking about before about the vision. So the workload. The responsibility of a maintainer basically includes, we've already talked about it previously, but it's addressing the user-reported issues, updating and improving the package to keep up with the evolving ecosystem of the project, ensuring that compatibility with new software versions and operating systems are updated, and expanding the package or project's functionality if desired. So how does a maintainer's work affect everyone? It's important to recognize that the impact of a maintainer's work can vary depending on the size and nature of the project, the user base, and the specific responsibilities of the maintainer. However, their work generally has wide-ranging effects on users, developers and contributors, community and ecosystem, security and stability, industry and society, and even beyond the immediate scope of the project. So I don't want to go too deep into the specifics of like the users and then the developers and the community, but I basically listed how a maintainer's job makes it easy for other people to do what they need to do. So they make it easy for newcomers to get started, that becoming contributors, any people that are just trying to get onto that first issue on GitHub wave. So they make it easy for new contributors to get started. Then they make documentation clear for project users to comprehend. They make it efficient for users to get their issues sorted and their queries answered. And they make the contributors feel valued. So how do you become a maintainer? To become a project maintainer, you basically need to act like a project maintainer. Most of the time, when it comes to maintenance of a project, you don't actually need permission to start doing what you think a maintainer can do, right? It's just about you taking initiative and doing what you think you can to help. So that means helping with issues, make pull requests, help with the documentation, answer questions, make tutorials, review pull requests, stuff like that. Like I said, there's really no need to ask for permission. And the easiest way to become a maintainer is to obviously create your own project from scratch. But what's more needed than a new project is to improve on an existing one. So if you think about, what projects, what package, what software do I use regularly that's open source that I think I could help develop, you find wherever the repo is, and then you start contributing little by little until you also get recognized as an active contributor. You can start with helping issues, like I said, and reviewing pull requests. Most often, once you get to a point where you're really, really active, the maintainer will obviously recognize you. They'll know that, okay, this is an active contributor, and they may even ask you if you want commit and publish access to that repo. And if you get to a point where, you've been doing this maybe every day or every Tuesday and Wednesday or every few days a week for like 3 months and you're still not recognized, you can basically just ask them, go up to, just reach out to whoever the maintainers are of the project and say, hey, I'm really passionate about maintaining this project properly, having access to the repo. I've done this and this for the past 3 months, I think I would really be a valuable asset as a maintainer on this project. So to become a maintainer, there are 3 also main things that you should do. You should first of all learn to say no. You should leverage your community, and you should also document your process. So learning to say no is about triaging issues, educating contributors, and keeping things moving. So if somebody makes a pull request for a patch that doesn't contribute to the goal of the project, or somebody is trying to contribute, but you actually don't have time to tell them that you're doing all of this wrong right now, you can actually just say, hey, I don't want to take this patch, or I don't currently have time to educate you on everything because it's all in the documentation, stuff like that. About leveraging your community, it means sharing the workload with others who are interested and willing to help. Most of the time, when we build something, whenever we create something, we feel like it's intrinsically ours, right? But we feel such ownership over it sometimes that we find it hard to kind of let go of the reins and allow other people to develop it into something greater than even what you imagined, right? So there are some communities, there are some projects where the owners don't feel comfortable fully letting go of the reins or allowing people to contribute in the way that would develop the project, because they still have this feeling of ownership over it. But I feel like once you start a project and you want to make it open source, you have to be ready and willing to take other people's contributions and opinions with, I don't want to say with a grain of salt. I don't want to say to heart. I don't know. You have to be able to take it in, basically, absorb it, and then, sift through whether this is appropriate and this is not. But you have to be ready to at least give some people the chance to work on your project, to change it. Even though the change might hurt you a little bit, it will probably help the project get better. So always be ready to leverage your community and learn how to engage your community members. The next one is documenting your process, and it's an ongoing requirement involving explaining your vision, communicating your expectations, and keeping communication open. So people that are trying to contribute, other contributors, developers, they won't know where you're trying to get to with your project unless you keep explaining. You might think that, the big graphic that you put in the README is enough. It's not. If you're not having weekly meetings or monthly meetings with your project contributors and maintainers, then you probably should start doing that so that you keep reiterating where you want the project to go, and how everybody's skills and expertise can help the project get there. And always, keep the line of communication open. You might not be able to answer everything at once or talk to everybody or reply to everybody, but at least say, hey, I'm busy right now. How about 5 p.m. on Tuesday? Would that work for you? Keep the communications line open. Don't make contributors feel like they can't come to you for even advice or opinions. So this is the end of this session. I was supposed to have somebody come on, but last minute juggling of tasks and stuff, so they couldn't come on. And I really wanted him to explain, because he's a maintainer for 2 different projects, so I wanted him to explain what it means to be a maintainer, especially in Nigeria, with the landscape that we're in. But these are some extra resources that you can use. GitHub launched an open source maintainer community. It is a private community, but you can request entry with this link here, maintainers.github.com. And then there's a website. The open source guide is like the ultimate website for anything relating to open source. So you can go to this particular page for the best practices on maintainers. So the next session, we're going to be so blessed with Jeff Wilcox, who is the programs manager at Microsoft Open Source, and he will be joining us for the very last session of Open Source Thursdays. You guys, I can't believe that's going to be the last session. But yeah, I don't really know everything I'm going to talk about. That's why I just says topic 1, 2, 3. But it's going to be fun, and I hope I hope that we'll see you guys there. Please also don't forget to start and finish this survey. Tell me what you felt about this session, even the previous sessions. If you haven't filled the surveys, please do. We'd like to get feedback on the kind of content we put on Microsoft Reactor. And thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for listening up until this point. I hope you learned stuff. If you didn't learn stuff, comment what you didn't learn and what you were expected to learn. So hopefully in another session we'd get to that. Thank you.